Now, I consider myself a pretty young person in multiple ways. Young looking, to a detriment sometimes. Young feeling, young acting, also to a detriment sometimes. But it keeps me in touch with that side of yourself that allows you to go to animated movies. Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks when they're good. And, as of now, Sony Animation, who just released Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is probably the best movie I've seen this year. Granted, the problem is I don't go to the movies that often anymore. It's usually for like the big frickin' mammoth pictures like, you know, Star Wars and maybe some MCU movies. I didn't see that many movies this year. I still need to see Creed 2. That's the last big one I think I need to watch. And then there could be a couple more that I might try to sneak into before, you know, they get pulled for Q1 of 2019, the time when all the best movies come out. Bumblebee. I gotta see Bumblebee. You see the ratings on that shit? I don't think any of us saw that coming. But I'm getting sidetracked. Youthful. Youthful am I. Now that said, I'm glad I'm no longer the kind of youthful that's attached to being a teenager. You know, when you first start consciously trying to figure things out and have all sorts of insecurities and therefore partake in certain behaviors that are, not... They're annoying. They're fucking annoying. I've been there, you've been there, we've all been there. It doesn't change the fact that sometimes you get put in situations where you're forced to be around a lot of adolescent energy. And this comes back to Spider-Man. This is a spiritual sequel, if not a completely on par entry in the moviegoer story, because the last guy I talked about was a grown-ass man who didn't act like he was that at all while watching a movie that is a little challenging, a little against the grain. But you see, this wasn't really like that because it's Spider-Man. We all know who Spider-Man is. Most of us like Spider-Man for being a very specific brand of fun, but also dramatic and colorful, but also like engaging. People of all backgrounds and ages were at the screening that me and Frantic Prayer went to. Kids, older kids, teens, young adults, old adults, black people, white people, Asian people, Latino people. It was just a hodgepodge that really makes you appreciate the characters that Stan Lee created because they have such a draw and they appeal to so many different walks of life. It's great. And despite what I'm about to say, I'm glad these gents were able to have a nice night out at the movies. However, seated directly next to us, closer to me, meaning I was able to hear more of it than my girlfriend was just a full wolf pack of teens. All in hoodies, all wearing very sporty sneakers, some wearing shorts, despite the weather. I was never that kid, I never got that. They all sat down a little bit before the movie itself started, and after the trailers rolled, and everyone got quiet, they weren't quiet. The little logos popping up right before the movie were playing. You had all these really weird glitchy effects to just kind of foreshadow the kind of plot that we were in store for, like loose sci-fi, meta, comic book shenanigans. It's so good. It looks so good. It sounded so good. It would have sounded better if I didn't have just miscellaneous noise playing into my right ear. It's that fucking teenager sound, which sounds condescending as all fuck, but anyone who's like been around a bunch of them when you're like trying to do something that doesn't involve talking, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just noise. It's just nothing. Yo! What is this? Why does anyone... Like, on an objective level, there's nothing, like, important about the logos that play at the beginning of a movie. Hell, you could argue that most films, the first 2 minutes don't even matter, because, like, they start rolling credits and whatnot. What I value about these little moments before the story gets underway is that it's a bit of a mood setter. It kind of establishes the texture of the movie. It allows everyone to kind of ease into that special place you need to get sometimes in order to just shut your brain off and enjoy a piece of cinema, you know? And I don't mean like, I'm gonna watch a bunch of robots blow up cars, turn off your brain. I mean escape. It's escapism, especially a movie like this. I mean, this year I learned just how stressful life can get even when the holidays are happening, so I can relate to having to kind of cross that barrier between reality and fiction. And that little period before the movie starts, that's a means of doing that. These gentlemen didn't know that, or they just didn't care. Probably a combination of both, but nah. The most annoying part is like, yeah, they got quiet enough when like characters started talking, but like any moment that didn't immediately involve a bunch of action set pieces or really crucial dialogue, they just kind of treated it like it was a cutscene in a video game, and not a good one like Metal Gear Solid. I'm talking something like, let's say Spider-Man 2. Ain't nobody playing Spider-Man 2 for the plot. They're playing for the web slinging and the ragdoll physics, but I'm getting distracted. These little moments where like, yeah, it's not like big time shit that's crucial to the story, but you know, it's world building, it's mood establishing, like the beginning, and like the amorphous blob of this pack of teens next to me would like fold into itself because like they were whispering like in jokes or some other trivial shit to each other, and they were trying to be quiet. They weren't quiet. It was just like and then the one who was sitting closest to me and was feeling left out, he would like lean over so far that he kind of got into my peripherals. He was also one of the loudest, unfortunately. Yo, man, that's fucked up. Is it boobs? Like, it wasn't rhythmic or anything. It would happen every few minutes, and I would like forget that they existed until I no longer did forget that they existed. I think my least favorite part about it is you got the impression that as far as they were concerned, they were just on the world's biggest couch in the world's biggest basement that was theirs and was hosting nobody but them, which wasn't true. There were in fact many people in this basement, and they would have appreciated being able to, you know, listen to the dialogue and like the music without the added flavor of
yo, she's dead ass
like I gotta remind myself it's harmless and it's indicative of the fact that they're having fun, which is good. I don't know their lives. Maybe their lives are shit and this is their one moment of respite. But that's me too. I'm just older and a little more polite, so it's a little aggravating that y'all aren't there yet, teenagers. And I've been that. I've chatted at movies. I've chatted during the trailers and have quips like any other person does when they're watching something that's got a lot going on and encourages the audience to like be like, damn, you know, like John Wick or any comedy. Hell, even any other Marvel movie. Quipping, it's fine. I like having an organic experience at the movies where people are like making noises. You know who makes a lot of noise? Kids. I might have ranted a lot about kids in the last video like this that I did, but the ironic part about last night's screening was that along with these teens, there were just like pockets of children throughout. Pockets of children. Like you're sneaking out of the drugstore with a couple. I'm fucking dumb. But yeah, they were there. It's Spider-Man. Like, comic books, Spider-Man, like, the biggest draw for that is kids. God knows I fucking loved me some Spider-Man back in the day, and the fact that there were some youngins watching this genre-blending hodgepodge homage to what Spider-Man is, has been, and will be, that's great. I'm glad that they get to be that young and watch a movie like this. But at most, you would just get acknowledgements of what was going on screen. It's like, oh, that's Peter Parker? Or, wait, that's Green Goblin? Because Goblin was freaky looking in this one. I was even like that, at least in my head. But everything they did showed that they were into it. They were in the movie with me. We were all having a good time. Like, in fact, the more I think about it, the more I associate positive comic book movie experiences at the theater with kids watching it.
That's the Joker? That's not the Joker, I know. See, Dad, that Joker, he make me uncomfortable.
Or whenever there was like a big reveal, like Caps in Infinity War, like even me and June were making noises at stuff like that. It's good. All this to say is I'm not against noise at the theater. Like, if anything, it's part of the reason you go. It's just the kind of noise, it's the quality of the noise that I care about. These kids, quality noise. Teenagers, store brand noise. Manufactured on a conveyor belt in China with workers who may or may not be of reasonable age to be doing that noise. And the cherry on top of the sundae was, as soon as the movie started wrapping up, some of these plays, they were too cool to stick around once all the punches were done being thrown and all the webs were done being slung. Like, there were 3 or 4 of them that within a couple minutes or like 30 seconds between each other. Yeah, cuz I'll see you. It's just like, my dude, you already paid for the ticket. This is your money that you're spending to like sit down and enjoy something. And it's great that you're able to crack open some non-alcoholic cold ones with the boys. I mean, I was sipping on a non-flavored seltzer out of one of those fancy machines that lets you pick the flavor and sub-flavor of what you want. Yeah, I know how to party, but it just, I don't know, it just kind of feels like y'all are missing out. Because, you know, a lot of work goes into each and every aspect of the production of these movies, and people want you to have a good time. And I'm glad you had a good time. And you're entitled to have a good time. I just wish you would have my kind of good time. Where you get to be boring for a little bit and non-contributive to an extent. Not as in don't laugh, not as in don't cry, because you're allowed to do that second one. I was doing a lot of that at this screening. It's a good ass movie. Makes you appreciate the legacy of not just Spider-Man, but Mr. Stan Lee. There's a good note to end on, instead of being a negative Nelly. To all you kids, all you young bucks who are going out seeing movies, keep doing that. Keep doing that because, like, God knows we need to keep the theaters alive. And, you know, I know a lot of you will, like most things, grow out of it, hopefully, otherwise you'll end up that one asshat. As annoying as they could be, I'm glad they were there. I'm glad that this red, blue, and white, and sometimes black character, drawn in pulp novels in the 60s by 2 really rad dudes, is still kicking. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko made something really special back in the day, and it's honestly amazing that he's still kicking today, and that he's able to get repackaged in just what seemed to be an infinite amount of ways. I mean, we've had how many Spider-Man movies in the last decade, and only so many of them have actually been good, if not just like okay. Sony did it. Sony made Stan proud. And I'm really gonna miss that SOB. We still got a handful of cameos to expect in, you know, coming Marvel movies, so I look forward to seeing those, but his cameo in this one, it was very timely. And when you go see the movie, it's fitting. Teenagers are annoying. I would know. I was one. I guess I really didn't have that much of a point with this. Just shush. That's the message. Shush. What are you looking at? Can I boop your snoot?
I'm gonna boop your snoot. I'm booping your snoot.
Peace. Phone. They're outdated.
From Omaha Steaks.
Omaha Steaks.
Call from Omaha Steaks.
Like steaks? Like this steak? Or that steak? Or sweepstakes? And I'm not talking no gorilla song.